this meeting. In the mayor's report tonight, I have a statement that I would like to read before we go any further. As elected officials, this council is called upon to represent the citizens of our city. We are all elected by the people to do a job. The purpose of council meeting is to conduct city business. It's very difficult to conduct the business of the city when individuals rant, rave about issues that are not pertinent to the agenda. The Argo clerk has to keep accurate records of all city council meetings. It's very difficult for her to do her job and keep accurate records when she can't hear what's being said because of the chaos, turmoil, confusion, and childish behavior. We do not need to be speaking, all need to be speaking at the same time. The treatment of individuals with whom you disagree does not give you the right to insult, berate, scream at, and use inappropriate behavior, whether it be a council member or a citizen. Disrespect and unprofessional behavior of anyone is unacceptable. Sometimes emotions have boiled over, leaving hostilities. We all need to treat each other with respect and to be civil to each other. I think we all have the best intentions and want the best for our city. It's normal for council members to disagree over issues, but there is no reason for insults, name-calling, and screaming at each other. The rules are basic. A do unto others approach to simply respect and be considerate of others during council meetings. People attending the meetings are asked to conduct themselves in a polite, respectful, and professional manner. To refrain from name-calling. How can we, as elected officials, ask our citizens to show us respect if we're not being respectful? I am asking this council to also show the same respect to not only citizens, but to council members. With this being said, inappropriate behavior in council members will be addressed. I will issue a warning and ask the person causing a disturbance to be silent. If that person persists, I will ask them to leave. And if that person refuses, I will ask law enforcement officer to remove him from the meeting. If you can control yourself in the hallway and come back to a meeting, then you're welcome to come back. But if you cannot, then you need to exit the building. I am not pointing fingers. I blame myself for my part. I was not very professional at the last meeting. For that, I apologize to my constituents and to citizens for not providing stronger leadership. I ask this council to move on as a family and as a team and work together for the betterment of our community. Okay, on the agenda next is the road contract for the county that we approved last time. We did not sign that, so I'm going to ask each one of y'all to sign that tonight. I think Tommy has a copy of that. No, everyone.
He's looking for it tonight to discuss that a little bit. I talked to Dan Dalkey, I talked to you too about the culvert, and what he and I have come up with is to maybe just make the culvert twice as long and not have to have head wall and riprap down both sides of it. He says he can meet with us have a chance to tell you 1:20 or 1:30 tomorrow. If that's not okay with you, I'll reschedule it. And Ronnie, whatever one of those can be here.
I got a meeting.
Okay, I'll see if we can reschedule. But a good chunk of this contract would have been doing up Katy Lane, which is the part we're talking about. And I think right now we've got them pacified. If we hold off, take that out of the contract, after we all meet, we can decide to take that part out of the contract and then save several $1,000, and we can do it in conjunction with the culvert, because there's no way we'll get the culvert done in time for the pavement like now. And if we pave it, then they have to tear it out. You know,
So you want to bring it back to the council after you meet with Mr. Dan Dalkey and...
But he said, Dan said it would be a problem to take any of it out, as long as we gave you a little notice.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue. Tonight we have Mr. William Miller with North Fork Southern Railroad here. And I'm going to let him tell you what he's doing here, what he's approached the city.
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, council members, for having me. My name is Will Miller. I work for Norfolk Southern, as Mayor said. I'm the manager of Grade Crossing Safety, covering the state of Alabama, and essentially I look at railroad crossings and try to make better safety proposals with cities, counties, and working with state DOT. Came to you tonight really with the intention of asking the council to consider changing the classification of the, we'll call it Argo Park Industrial. Is that what it's referred to? The industrial crossing? I call it the subway crossing. So everybody knows where it's at. But to change that classification from private to a public crossing. It has always been in the federal inventory as a private railroad crossing. That's probably because, as many of you know that have lived here a long time, there used to be farmland over there, and we woke up and now it's an industrial park and a subway. It is not an ideal situation to have that crossing there, but lo and behold, as I looked, it's already changed to a public crossing probably after the latest incident occurred late last year. I think that that's a good thing for the city, because once it's changed to a public crossing, it becomes subject to upgrades from AlDOT using federal funds. If it were to remain a private crossing like it was, they would never even look at it because they can't use federal funds on private railroad crossings. Every year, AlDOT gets a certain amount of federal funds. They have a hazard ranking index. They look at every crossing in the state. By the way, there's over 6,000 public railroad crossings in the state of Alabama. They can do something to 20 to 30 of them. So it's a very competitive process. There have been 3 incidents at the subway crossing. The most recent one is probably most of you unfortunately know about. The one before that was in 2015, and in 2001 there was another serious incident there. So there's 3 on file just from an incident history. Don't really have to ask your consideration to change that. Now that it has been changed, we're going to try and find out who initiated it. Really the railroad, state DOT, or federal government are the only entities that can change that classification. So I've already sent off a request to find out who changed it and who authorized it.
And you said that was changed around December
17th is, it looks like the date that it was changed.
Okay, we've had one incident there since then.
No, this was right after that.
We've had 3 since 2015.
Have you? Okay. Well, there's only 2 on the record book, so I'm not sure about the other one. But once again, I think that it is a good thing that it's changed to a public crossing. I wish the crossing could be moved to a better location. I know that it's tight. There's some property ownership issues, but with your master plan, I mean, I would like for your engineers are here to consider, you know, is there a better location that can tie into the industrial park that can give a better profile? Are there turn lanes that could be extended on the side of Highway 11 to give people coming across a better place to get onto 11? It's just not a good situation. I was over there for a few minutes tonight, and I think I saw 6 vehicles in about 10-15 minutes cross over it. Only one stop at the stop sign, which is very disheartening to us. We run 18 trains a day on average through Argo. This is a main line in between Birmingham and Chattanooga. And I'm just asking you as a council and city leadership, think about it in conjunction with your master plan. Is there a better place? I had a couple meetings with the former mayor. We were looking at, could a road be built out to Argo Margaret Road? Was there a better place along the tracks for that crossing to exist? There's no easy solution, I can tell you that. but at least by having it a public crossing, it will be on AlDOT's list to examine for safety improvements, which may include automatic warning devices. That will help people understand that a train's approaching. It won't help them make the right decision. It won't help with the profile coming down off that hill. It won't help with the fact that there's not a lot of clearance queuing area for a regular sized vehicle, much less a truck, FedEx, something like that. There's nowhere to go. I've seen your traffic coming off the interstate, and I know what you're dealing with in the morning and in the evening with your commute times. It's not a good situation. I wish I had an easy fix for you, but I would just urge you to maybe incorporate something into your master plan if it were available to do so. We stand committed to lending our expertise in this area to the city to try and improve that situation. And that's about all I have to say this evening.
I have a question about.
I'm here to answer any questions.
Yeah, since AlDOT has taken that over, does that make them responsible now to make sure that crossing will be kept safe, or will they be responsible? I mean, it doesn't affect the city in any way.
No, it doesn't affect the city in any way. I mean, I know why the city would be hesitant to say, oh, this is a public crossing now, because anybody who's driven on the backside up in that little industrial area can see what condition the road is in, and nobody wants maintenance ownership or something like that. To better answer your question, AlDOT would be the party that would decide if that crossing ever got safety enhancements such as warning devices, active warning devices. They have consultants that go out and look at crossings to say, okay, pavement markings are needed right here, or this is needed to comply with the manual uniform devices, the way railroad signs and markings, all that is supposed to be. I don't know of anything that the city can do or should do other than see if there's a better place for that crossing to try and give people a safer way to cross over our tracks.
Is it appropriate for us to request AlDOT to look at that, or has that already been done?
That's a good question, Councilman. It hasn't been done to my knowledge, and they probably don't even know that that is a new crossing that's in the public realm. I will reach out to my counterparts in Montgomery and make sure that they know, hey, this crossing in Argo is now public. We can request a diagnostic review where they come out and look at it with, I don't know if it'd be Dan, or do you have your own city engineer, or do you follow your county? So probably be.
We're working to tie in with our Apple grant.
Well, can I address?
Sure. I'm sorry.
I mean, I know I'm not here to talk about this particular issue, but I do happen to know something about this particular issue, Mayor and Council. Hey, my name is Richard Hall, by the way. I'm the traffic engineer for the Apple project that's going on. This is JT Murphy. It's good to meet you. In addition to working for the city of Argo, we also work for the Alabama Department of Transportation. And part of our work with the Alabama Department of Transportation does involve all the railroad grade crossings in the state of Alabama. We were under the understanding that was a private crossing, and I guess our database.
Me too.
Yeah, I guess our database. So I can tell you now that it is a public crossing, the Alabama Department of Transportation, and our firm is involved with this, is currently working through St. Clair County, along with all the other counties that make up this AlDOT region, to upgrade all public crossings in this area. And so those plans are being prepared this year. They will go to bid next year. As a minimum, what that will do is, if you remember back in our recommendations for immediate improvements, we did recommend advanced signing, striping, and treatment at this railroad crossing. I think we quoted a price of like $4,100. Now that we know that it's a public crossing, AlDOT will have that in their plans to do this. In addition, knowing the history of this crossing and the fact that we have 3 incidents within the last 3 years, it will automatically be elevated to what you refer to as a diagnostic review, which means there will be a full assessment of that, and that does make it eligible for, it's called Section 130 funds, and it could include lights, bells, and gates to be installed at that intersection as well. So just knowing that it's a public crossing has put all that into effect tonight. So.
Which is a good thing.
And then I think JT here might want to say something about the grade of that crossing, particularly as it relates to the short-term improvements that we have on Highway 11.
Yeah, so I think most anyone driving down can tell that grade crossing, specifically the stretch that ties between grade crossing and Highway 11 on Argo Park, it's at a significant grade as it currently stands. And so coming to short-term improvements like we've all discussed with you guys recently, we're talking about widening Highway 11 in that section. And so any widening would steepen that grade between Highway 11 and that grade crossing. So I don't know if that's something that we need to consider as part of this, or maybe it's something, I don't know what steps LDOT can do to look at on how we can improve the crossing with the current plans.
I think the only thing that we know is that we also support trying to find another access in and out of Argo Industrial Park, which would probably go toward Argo Margaret Road, but there are property issues that are involved with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad I found some friends here today.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Miller? Thank you, we appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Next is Eddie Culpepper, our Safe Room Grant.
Essie had asked me to come tonight to speak to you guys. As I understand it, the resolution got passed. That part is over with, so I think you guys have signed the contract and sent that on to Peyton, is that correct?
I think Casey's out today. I don't know if she has sent that, but I believe she has. We also got an invoice for $11,346, and this needs to be paid as soon as possible. And would you explain about how we are supposed to pay as this project progresses?
Yes. The way the FEMA grant works is the work is performed, and then you guys end up getting an invoice, and then once the invoice is received, you cut a check for whatever the amount is. You take I'd like to see some kind of a stamp on the invoice that says you received it and paid it and all that good stuff, so they'll at least know that it's got a city.
So the city pays for it up front, and then they get reimbursed?
Yes, and I told Casey, I'm helping you get that reimbursement. And what happens is, once you get the invoice, once the check is cut, I need a copy of that invoice showing on there that it was signed and paid and then a copy of the check, and then I'll prepare the necessary paperwork for you. Actually, it's all online now, where you guys will get reimbursed, and it's a 75-25 reimbursement. So what happens is you'll get a check back from the state of Alabama for the 75%.
And how long did it generally take them to pay once you've submitted the invoices?
These last few that we've submitted is only taken like 2 or 3 weeks, and it's a pretty quick turnaround because it's all automated now. So I'm thinking the turnaround time is pretty quick.
Would you like to go ahead and continue now with what our next step?
The $11,000, is that included in the overall price? So we'll be getting reimbursed for part of that too?
That money was in the grant,
Okay,
and so you're getting 75% paid on those dollars.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we will not put any invoices in front of you guys that is above and beyond what FEMA has approved, unless something changes that, you know, would need for you guys to know that this is above and beyond what FEMA has approved. So I'll make sure that happens. In other words, you won't get hit with a surprise bill that says, you know, X amount of dollars and it doesn't have can be tied to. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is we're ready to go. And there's about 10 to 12 of these similar projects that are in the hopper right now. They're going through various phases. Some of the survey work has been done on quite a few of them. The geotechnical has been done. The architect has got the building designs and the specifications all ready to go. All I'm suggesting is that if we can get this thing rolling, we can tie it into some of these other ones that are going on, and that way it'll just move faster. It'll move faster, and we can potentially save some money by when we get ready to bid it. If there's several of them out there being bid on, then hopefully somebody's going to offer some pretty good pricing on it. I know you guys have used a firm to do the site work out here and civil engineering and so forth. I would suggest that we take a real strong look at continuing to use those people if y'all are okay with that. Since you are familiar with it, I've already paid to have a lot of the work done.
You just met him.
Okay.
How's it going?
I think I did remember your name. So, I mean, that's up to y'all, but, it doesn't make sense to start all over with somebody different if we can leverage what's already been done. The other thing, I need somebody here that's kind of a point guard that I can come to and say, we need to do this, and this. Is that okay? Let's get moving on it. And then, if they need to turn around and come to a city council meeting and get with a bunch of people to make a decision, that's fine. And I don't mind coming in a council meeting or any other meeting. I just need, kind of, rather than waiting a week or 2 weeks or a month out, to make decisions, I just need to be able to kind of move things along. So, is there any ideas or suggestions as to who that might be?
I'm suggesting Tony, he already got a working relationship with them. And he says he'll make time.
Do you want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion, we appoint Tony as our liaison.
Do I hear a second? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilperson Cowan,
Yes.
Councilperson Bowman,
Yes.
Councilperson Massey,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Aldridge. Councilperson Brown,
Yes.
Mayor Bradley.
Yes.
Tony, I think I've got your email. We'll correspond, and there's just some things we need to make some decisions on pretty quick, get the ball rolling. If you feel like you need to come back to the mayor, the council, or the attorney on any of these issues, feel free to do it. If I need to be asked to come back and explain it in more detail, I'll be glad to do it. No problem.
When you say that things to be done, is it, you're talking about things to be done as far as engaging consultants and sub-consultants and that kind of thing?
Yes, sir. The first few things that need to get rolling is the civil engineering aspect of this thing. We need to get that rolling. And that would include the survey, the geotechnical, and the layout of how it's going to sit on the property. We need to determine things like utilities, where's the water, gas, sewer, septic tank, whatever we have, power. Then,
Now, with that, those type of things, sorry to interrupt, with those type of things, are you going to be the one that's issuing the RFPs to the architects and engineers and that, or is that something we need to do? How does that work?
what I would do on that is I could help prepare that document, but I would actually like for that to come from the municipality. I think it's appropriate for it to be a direct relationship between the consultant or architect or whoever it happens to be in the city.
Okay.
And what I'll do is prepare whatever documentation, and then if you feel like you can execute it, or the mayor, or if you need to come back to the council, then that's probably the appropriate way to do that.
Yeah, I'd like to get those things started.
And
as soon as
Pass it
possible.
on to them to look at too.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
not that we can help you, anything that you know.
okay, and I think you had sent me some names of some architectural firms that deal with these things, so, yeah,
Yes.
I'd have to get that out, so we can, so get
Okay,
everybody's input approved.
yes, I think that'd be great. And once we get that architect working, and once we get the civil engineering working, you'll start to see a lot of things come together pretty quick. And then hopefully we'll have drawings and we'll be able to sit that back down with the council and say, okay, here's what we're proposing to do. Here's the building plan, here's the site plan, here's where the utilities are, all that'll be laid out and you can see and have discussions and make the final, yeah, that's what we understand we're getting. And then once you guys sign off on that, we'll be ready to prepare the bid package.
Right.
And I think we need to there's a couple ways that can be handled, and we need to have those discussions too later on. But the bid packages get prepared, they get sent out, we have to follow Alabama state bid law on that. And then once the contractor, or once the bids are submitted, there'll be an open bid process, and then one will be selected. Of course, it'll be the architect's responsibility to make sure they have not been flagged by FEMA, and also that they can do the work in accordance with specifications.
Okay.
And then they're given a certain period of time, to get ramped up and go, and we're off to digging dirt, building the building.
Yeah, and I think we've got, right now with the other projects we got going on at the city here at this campus, we like to get this thing moving as soon as possible. I don't know that we can ever make the two schedules line up, but if we can, we need to.
Look, if it's okay, this other project that you're referring to, is that the overall site plan for here? How far off are you from that being, are we near?
I would say that we're anticipating bidding the project, we're anticipating starting construction 1st of May.
Okay.
So bidding the project I gotta remember my dates here, but council would award the contract the first council meeting in April. I think it's April 9th. So 2 weeks before that is about when we would bid the project. So start construction 1st of May is what we're anticipating.
I think based on where we're at, I think we can make all that line up with that overall plan.
If we could do that, we'd be miles ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to push
Just say
forward
this
on.
bundle on dirt for
See, we're right down at the end of January, and by the time we get rolling and everything, and you get an architect on board, you get just civil engineering on board, and they start doing the work, we're probably talking a couple of months before all that gets completed. So there we're down into, 1st of April. And then by the time you put the bid package, you get everybody's blessing, you put the bid package together, you're probably down toward the end of April, 1st of May timeframe. And then the actual construction of the building would happen at the factory. So you're probably looking at 3 months there before you would actually be in a position to have the property ready to go.
I'll just add that, we've got survey on the property, and we've also got some limited geotechnical information. We kind of tried to realize that the storm sheltering would follow suit, and so there's some geotechnical in that location. But can you and I talk after this meeting about just kind of time frame and how the site project might overlap with the storm shelter?
Why don't I call you tomorrow? How's that sound?
You got my information.
But that's it, kind of in a nutshell. I'm glad we kind of have gained
I don't think they've formally chosen an architect from the list that you've sent.
I was thinking that it's gonna be part of this process that you and I were referring to, right?
Right. Yeah, I think, and that would be, good. I think you had mentioned the one in Rogersdale had the most ongoing projects up in this area. So just, yeah, that's what I was talking about, him having an RFP, writing an RFP so we can get that out immediately. And I think he's you're talking about the same people that he said, obviously.
Yes, I mean, one of the three he
Right.
suggested.
So if we can get him to write the RFP, get it out immediately.
RFP for
The request for proposal
from the architect.
from the architect and the engineer.
It probably needs to be a proposal for qualifications is probably a better way of
Yeah,
counting.
that's why I hesitated, RFP, RFQ mainly.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling you'll circle back around for Rogersdale.
And PDQ.
Yeah.
The request for qualifications for professionals really you can probably take on that. And I'll put something together and you can send it out and get back all the qualifications of all the different architects. And we'll ask things in there, what kind of time frame can they get on board and all that kind of stuff can hopefully meet with your timeline.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Culpepper? Thank you, Mr. Culpepper. Do you have anything else you need to add to this?
And I don't think looks like we're in good shape.
All right, thank you.
Did you need me to stay for the whole meeting, or?
I don't think so. Y'all didn't have any other questions for Mr. Culpepper, did you?
We'll talk offline.
Yeah, I'll call Jay.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Apple Grant Highway 11 project, J.T. Murphy.
And Richard Cole.
Okay.
Cass?
No, that's okay.
Unless
you need me.
Might have some questions. Okay, so tonight, we wanted to come to you guys. We've met several times about the Apple Argo grant, looking at the improving the traffic situation we've got on Highway 11, Argo Martin Road, and Argo Parkway. We've come in to discuss immediate improvements. We've discussed short-term improvements. And so what we wanted to do tonight is come in and just kind of give you guys an update as to where we are with the immediate improvements. There's been some progress there, the status of some of the short-term improvements, and then also we wanted, at the end of this, we wanted to present to you guys the long-term improvements plan that we've developed. With that, I'll let Richard kind of take it off and discuss the immediate and the short-term improvements.
Right. One of the things that was covered in our immediate improvement program was a change out of the traffic signal controller at Argo, Margaret Road and US Highway 11. The mayor and the council here, Tony, particularly worked with the Alabama Department of Transportation, and they donated a controller to the city of Argo back on January the 3rd of this year. We were able to get that controller, got it programmed on January the 8th, installed it on January the 9th. I think met Councilman Massey out there at one point while I was working on it. And so that controller is running the brand new program, and it gives roughly 30 seconds of green time to Highway 11 and about 90 seconds of green time to Argo Margaret Parkway now, from roughly 7:15 a.m. till about 8:15 a.m. in the morning. You have had a police officer out there every morning who's basically been running the signal with a push button. I've talked to that police officer on 2 different occasions now since the work was performed, and he indicates that there's only one circumstance where he has to actually work the signal now, and that's when the St. Clair County school buses come down and they have to stop at that crossing on the far side of the crossing before they can go across. When they do, the signal has no idea that they're there, and the signal turns yellow. So the police officer is still having to activate the signal only for the school buses. Otherwise, he said the signal timing is working just like if they had been there with the push button. The other short-term improvement project, which does address the school bus issue, is we recommended a project of roughly $8,000 to put up a traffic camera that will look back over the crossing and look for vehicles, slow vehicles, school buses, hazardous material vehicles that are actually stopped on the far side of the track and not have that signal turn yellow. And that would eliminate the need for the police officer altogether. So that's the status of the short-term improvements. Can I answer any questions about that one, or?
Can I interject something, Richard?
Yes, sir.
I did speak with the contractor, and we are in their queue for that video detection system on this side of the track. They're extremely busy, so we'll have a date, but we're in the queue.
And so between that and the work with the railroad crossing, they should complete all the short-term improvements. The immediate improvements. The short-term improvements, you'll remember that we briefed you on back in December after a meeting with the Alabama Department of Transportation. There were quite a few items that were in the side of the court of Alabama Department of Transportation. We have followed up, both JP and I have followed up with them in the last few days and haven't got a response back. So the status of the short-term improvements is really the same as it was back in December. And when we know something more from the DOT, we'll come back and brief you, and we will continue to push the Alabama Department of Transportation to provide some response on what they would be able to do with their funds on that particular project. Any questions about the short term? And that's this drawing out here on the left, to your left end of the table. All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it back over to JT. JT is going to go over the concept of long-term improvements that we have for you. I'll just say that in terms of traffic, I put a short report section out in front of your places tonight. There's really not much to talk about in traffic other than the long-term improvement works out through the year 2040. But without knowing what the long-term improvement is, that doesn't mean a whole lot to you. So JT,
Yeah, so, we kind of, I'm going to ask that you guys come up and kind of look around the table here like we did last time.
I have in our in-house tonight is Commissioner, used to be our Commissioner Ken Crow. He's our Revenue Commissioner now. Isaac Howard, which is the mayor of Margaret, and Mr. Chapman, which is also a council member. And did I miss anybody back there? I would also like for them, they're our neighbors, and I would like for them to also look at this, if they will come forward.
While y'all are coming forward, I just wanted to add, I've actually got a meeting with Aldon next week or two, and every time I meet with them, I'll be bringing up the issues that we talked about recently. So we'll just, we'll be squeaking from all angles. Yes.
Okay, so let me back up and tell you kind of what we're thinking here. I think everyone knows that the at-grade crossing we've currently got on Argo Margaret Road, it causes some issues whenever there's a train stop on the tracks. Whenever there's a train, even whenever there's a train going through, it impacts traffic. Argo Margaret Road and Highway 11, and also back onto I-59. So as a long-term solution, something that Richard said would project out 20 or more years, we wanted to look at a way that we could get over the railroad tracks, okay? So looking at something where we can have a bridge, okay? And so we've looked at this, and from a topography standpoint, just trying to piece in a bridge, okay? With a bridge, you've got to be, I think it's 23 foot of vertical clearance for Norfolk Southern. That's the requirement too, 23 or 25 feet of vertical clearance. So we've taken it and we've looked, and kind of, as you all know, the railroad tracks are very close to I-59. So getting off the interstate, we looked at something kind of further south and east over here, closer to Argo Margaret Road, Argo Parkway, but there's no way to get over the railroad tracks without having some type of flyover, okay? So even But even having a flyover, what it does is it puts you way down here to get across the tracks, and there's a ridge that runs north and south. So we wanted to try to avoid that. So what we looked at going to the north side of town, north side of Argo Market Road, and try to keep it as close to Argo Market Road as we can, because we figure people likely wouldn't want to go too far up Highway 11, too far north, and then feel like they're backtracking to get back towards some of the properties back here on towards this side of town. So what we've got here is, you can see, we've got the short-term improvements shown, so just kind of showing in the future what would tie to. And then you've got the 4-lane section, and you've also got the improvements on the Argo Market Road. What we would do is we would extend that 4-lane section north up Highway 11. So just extend that section. We've got the traffic to do. Richard's projected those traffic counters. And so we brought this up Highway 11, have a right turn lane onto the, we don't even have a name for it, we call it proposed bypass right now, okay? And so proposed coming across and getting over the railroad tracks with a bridge, extending the drive over, the road over, and close to where Argo Market Road takes its first curve. That's where we would look at tying back into Argo Market Road. So just envision the primary route that we would hope people would choose would be come south or southwest on Argo Market Road, take the new bypass, cross the railroad tracks to Highway 11 where it's a signalized intersection. Free flowing movement, okay? That way we can avoid the railroad tracks altogether, get across the railroad tracks. I know people are looking at this, there are property lines on this, and I just want to say that any long-term improvement would have some impacts to properties. So for this concept, this thing could change 100 times between now and actual construction. So we just want to say that, we did try to realize that there's an impact to some properties and minimize that as much as we can on a conceptual level. I'll add that this assumes that there's no environmental issues out there. Of course, to do the project, you have to go through an extensive study to determine if that property could be used for this purpose. We've kind of put together a order of magnitude price at somewhere around $14–15 million to have this constructed. And so I don't know if you've got, I know that's a big number. This is a long term.
It's pretty close to the other projects that are similar.
It's similar, yeah. And so, this is something that's long term, something that you can be thinking about. So this is what we've come up with. We think this is an adequate solution for what the city's needs are.
We did a very similar study in Chelsea, which is a suburb of Birmingham area, and it was about 15 to 20 million for a very similar project. They're trying to get over their railroad as well.
Yeah, so this would be a bridge.
The railroad's down in a hole there instead of being on the road.
You might ask why we chose that particular location. Because we've got the 23-foot vertical clearance we've got to meet. So we can't be down here this close because we just don't have enough space to get up over it. You've got vertical curvature that we've got to meet. So this just kind of fell in line without getting too far. There's some more development up north of here. I don't know if you've got.
I was just going to add, you're right about the 23 feet. Again, we just did this in Chelsea. And the thing is the deck, because the structure, so you got 23 feet to clear the train underneath.
That's the
But
bottom.
the deck itself is another, 4 or 5 feet above that, because you got to have beams and then the roadway. So you're almost 30 feet, 28 feet up. So to get from here to 28 feet, you're going to have a pretty steep, you need room to get up quickly and get over without the grade being so much that it's infeasible. We've tackled this in other areas.
Locally, you can imagine Waterston Parkway down in Trussville.
Right.
And there's a very similar project.
Where you rise up quickly, get over the tracks.
So it would have very steep grades.
Where's that?
Waterston Parkway, just outside of downtown.
I want to say,
Trussville.
right now, that I had absolutely no input into where this road was going. It crossed my family's property and it's right against some of mine. But I'm not, just right here from the start, I never had I didn't have a clue you were gonna do anything like
I
that.
didn't know that was, I didn't even pull up property managers because that's the level of detail.
Okay, but I just want to make that clear right off the bat that I had nothing to do with it.
And Mike, one thing that you might want to address here is how $14 million could be funded, or specifically how it can't be funded.
This
It
is
probably
the
is not going to
church's
be funded
property.
as supposed to fund.
And that's the parsonage, so it's going right through the middle of the church's property. They're in the process of filling some of that right now, legal.
Oh, great.
We're gonna be paving that lot tomorrow too. It's your-
I
it's your
saw
part,
that,
your
I saw
church.
that on Facebook, I know that.
A project this size would have to be essentially an ALDOT project. We have, a project like this would essentially take an entire year's worth of annual funding from the MPO. But, you know, it is US 11, it could be a, so it would have to be something that ALDOT would need to fund.
Or some other type of creative financing.
That's right.
Bond issue, or perhaps even a congressional.
I mean, no, even, I want to say, even the big municipalities in our area don't typically get a $14 to $15 million project.
Is that 14 to 15 million include the bridge?
It's inclusive of the bridge, exclusive of right-of-way and environmental mitigation.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, payments not-
Excluding, yes, the right of way.
It's exclusive of right-of-way.
That's Massey's and Leopard through there, they ain't gonna give up easy.
I know, that's not a bad price.
It's showing right behind Eddie's house.
Some prime real estate too, probably.
That's the church crossing, and then that's the parson, and
Yeah,
that's the property. No, the property notices.
no, it's right here, runs down to
It's
the,
not in there. Okay. So that's Fox's Pizza Shop.
yeah, the dentist and all.
Yeah, there's Harvest there.
You see, it's kind of plan ahead. It's not a waste of time to look at this thing.
Wow.
And it might work out. We're 20 years from now, anyway, I guess.
30, 40.
What? That's what you.
I mean, for this is feasible.
Yeah, at least we got a plan.
That's right.
And like I said, this plan could change, you know.
We probably already gone
Look
into
at some options, you know, try to at least minimize the distance away from Argo Market Road that we're getting, and also try to consider some of the construction restraints that we have, getting closer down here to Argo Parkway.
But that's about as close as you can get because of the diverging of the railroad tracks or highway. I don't think you can get much closer.
No, that is as close as we can get.
So we gotta go further north.
So you would have to go from here,
That's south, this is north.
The track goes.
Yeah.
It's good that.
Until you get to a point that they start coming together and crossing.
Keith, did you have any questions?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna know, it's not like it's not here.
Mr. Howard, you have any?
I know.
There's a big bump.
I just looking, there's a, like that, there's some action. Wow. No, that's, over here. And that's, and that's. Like I said, I had nothing to do with where they drew this up at.
And we can attest to that.
Really, they wouldn't want to come through there anyway.
No, Mom and Daddy, I know, wouldn't care nothing about having anything. It's right in their back door.
Well, apart from the negotiations that we'll continue to be doing with AlDOT, we think we're getting very close to the end of the actual engineering work going on in the Apple Grant project. I think JT, our plan is to perhaps to try to finish up a draft final report during the early part of the month of February, mid-February, and have that for y'all for review and comment at that time. But that doesn't, once we issue the final report, that doesn't mean we quit working with AlDOT to try to continue to advance this short-term plan.
Yeah, I would say right now our focus is the short-term plan. You know, we gotta get that one pushed through.
It'd have to be short-term because it'd take me a long time to clean Daddy's shed out. It's going right through his shed.
That's the hardest part of this whole project.
Put that on.
Did you give Mayor Howard that? That's the different phases.
Yeah, I was looking at that.
I'll leave this with you guys.
Nice to have a wall.
What?
Put them on the wall.
Are you leaving? I'm leaving, we need to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Good to see you. Thank y'all, appreciate it.
That's one, I think that's pretty good there. One for the trim and for the so everything you'll have to lay on. I'll add.
Let's go.
I wasn't here, I wasn't here, brought my camera.
Pretty good there, most of the year.
My daughter's having a baby. About 9 months. She moved back in with us last weekend. I'm excited, so.
Oh, yeah. This was interesting.
So she can start her day.
Okay, the next thing on our agenda is going to be the city attorney's report on the solid waste bid.
I'm hoping everyone had a chance to at least flip through the proposed invitation to bid. And if you all wanted to identify a proposed starting date of such service so it can be implemented, or at least put into the bid advertisement, you don't necessarily, it's not a requirement that you vote on bidding it out, but you just basically authorize staff and myself to advertise it for bid. Of course, once the bids come in from all of the companies you send it to, that's the time that you could accept one, reject them all, or what have you, based upon the contents of this. This is just guidelines for them to submit the bid. And so, if this is advertised as similar to what is written, except for the updates on the dates and such, ideally the bids would come in from various companies. You would have a bid opening. You all would consider the results and, accept in part, reject in part, reject them all, or whatever you chose to do at that time. And that's the idea, is to get their bids and make the formal decisions at that point. So really I'm looking for guidance as to how you want your staff and me to move forward on this, and approximately when maybe.
I think we're all in favor of that. There's just a few things that I highlighted that I saw that I have questions about. So knowing that this is just a draft, then would those changes need to be addressed prior to?
If we could certainly run through them now, and I could say, if it's in the contract portion of it, then the contract is submitted as a guide for the bidders as to what the contract would look like in the event that they chose to bid and were awarded the bid. If it's in the bid specs in general, and it's something that needs to be corrected, then absolutely, let's talk about it, and before I prepare it for the final advertisement, then we can certainly change it at that point.
On page 11, under the billing portion, section 23A, it says the city should provide the billing.
Yeah, that's correct, that's incorrect, absolutely.
Okay.
That's something that obviously Argo does not do.
Right, right. And I know some do that have a utility, they include that in their utility billing.
Yeah,
So
that,
it's
that
not-
will absolutely need to be updated, for sure.
Um,
Okay, so what you're saying is, we don't necessarily need to do it tonight, but kind of get ourselves fired up to do it next time, that you get the time to dot your T's, dot your I's and cross your T's.
No, I would say that, you know, if you wanted to vote on it, by all means do, but you don't, it's not legally required that you vote on at this stage. Your staff and I could just advertise it accordingly, and then everybody, all the companies would send back send back bids as a result of that advertisement. And
Okay.
then you would make your formal decision as to what you wanted to accept or reject and that kind of thing at that time.
So would we send them the guidelines that you've given us?
Yeah, this would be primarily with a few changes here and there. If there's a mistake and that's the kind of stuff I wanted to catch.
Okay.
At this point, if there's a mistake or something, then that needs to be wordsmithed, and I haven't done a final proofing on this, obviously. So, once I do the final proofing in concept, this is what they would receive, this packet right here.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, what I'm wanting to ask is, we've not franchised it before, we've never had any kind of dealing with the waste disposal. Do we not need to establish some kind of policy?
Well, this is it. What would happen is, you all would get that back and implement this right here. And this will be the guideline for the
Okay, I thought we had to have some kind of policy before we advertise the bid.
No, if, not necessarily. You're already operating under the Solid Waste Act. And so, with that being the case, you can, you know, as a matter of fact, that sort of pushes you to do what I'm suggesting here. And so you don't have to adopt any brand new policy. This is just re-advertising the service that you already have according to state law and in compliance with state law.
Also, I noticed, I don't remember what page it was on, but they were talking about recycling. And all, we have the facility here
That's
for their recycling, so unless the council votes to, and I understand that we didn't we have to have concrete,
Well, one thing that a lot of other municipalities do is recycling is in part of their pickup.
It's in the contract.
It's in the contract that the service, the company would furnish the bins for the recycling, and they would pick up the recycling on alternate days for the trash, because it's the way Trustful handles theirs.
Yeah,
So you don't necessarily have to have something here at City Hall in order to recycle it and be.
and I'll let you know, the goal here was to keep or mimic service that is currently being provided. Don't exceed the cost of what's being provided to the citizens, but get a benefit for lower costs for businesses, or a consistent cost for new businesses, and provide a cost saving to the city as part of the franchise itself.
And it should help the citizens too.
It
By
should.
being competitive with these.
It certainly will not, the goal is to certainly not increase anything, for sure. But in the primary, there's really never been a benefit received by the city, for instance, of that company exercising their business inside the city limits. Heavy trucks on a daily basis tearing up roads. There's been never been a fee coming back to the city. Now's the time, in my opinion. And so that's my hope. What happens here is that the city, without increasing any cost, will get that benefit back as part of the franchise agreement. And if, like the mistake about the billing, that's what I'm looking for in my final reading, to see if there's any kind of those mistakes that just do not apply. In the recycling, of course, that would increase